This is the Xiaomi 12 Lite Disassembly. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and follow me on Twitter so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. And if you need any tools, there are links in the description. First, the SIM tray will need to be removed. Here's a better look at that. Next, we need to apply heat to the back plate using a hairdryer or a heat gun to loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then we'll use a plastic pry tool to pry the back plate off. Here's a better look at the glass back plate. The glass camera lens covers can be replaced by applying heat and gently prying them off. At this point, there are 19 Phillips screws which need to be removed. The top cover can be lifted up and removed. There's an antenna line drawn on this plastic cover, which is that light gray color line. The NFC antenna is located here, and the LED flash and light sensor is located next to that. There's also graphite film to help transfer heat. Here's a look at the other side. Now the battery cables can be disconnected, followed by the rest of the cables. And there's a copper tape covering the connector for the front-facing camera, which needs to be peeled off so we can disconnect and remove it. Here's a better look at the 32 megapixel front-facing camera. The main board can now be lifted up and removed. On the main board, there's a 108 megapixel primary camera, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide lens, and a 2 megapixel macro lens. None of the cameras have OIS or optical image stabilization. The camera connectors can be disconnected by just popping them off. There's a secondary microphone located on the top, and there's some graphite film and copper tape over the front shields. Looking at the other side, there are two LED flash on the top for the front-facing camera, an infrared or IR blaster on the top corner, and copper tape on the back, as well as some thermal paste to help transfer heat. Once the graphite film and copper tape are peeled back, we can see thermal paste on top of the processor and a thermal pad on top of the RAM. Here's a better look with the thermal paste and thermal pad removed. It's time to remove the bottom speaker assembly. There's some more graphite film over the speaker assembly to help transfer heat. There's a rubber gasket and mesh filter over the speaker opening. And here's a better look at the speaker itself. This speaker also has the little white foam balls, which make the speaker sound larger than it actually is. Next, we need to disconnect this flex cable, which connects the main board to the subboard, as well as the SIM reader. Here's a better look at that. The fingerprint sensor can be disconnected from the subboard, and then the subboard can be lifted up and removed. The other end of the blue coaxial cable needs to be disconnected from the subboard. There's a red rubber gasket around the charger port itself, and the primary microphone is located next to it underneath the shield. Here's a look at the other side. There's a flex cable for the antenna board which needs to be disconnected, and then that can be removed. The fingerprint sensor is held down with some adhesive, and the same goes for the vibrator motor, which is located on the bottom corner. In order to remove the battery, there are pull tabs provided to help us pry the battery off. Here's a better look at the 4300 mAh battery. Once the battery has been removed and the adhesive pouch has been peeled back, we have a better look at the flex cable for the screen, which is routed through an opening in the midframe. So if you need to replace the screen, you would have to remove the back plate, as well as the screws in the top plastic cover. You'd have to disconnect the battery cable and pry the battery off, as well as disconnect the screen cable, and then you'd heat up the front of the phone where the screen is to loosen up the adhesive underneath, pry the old screen off, apply apply new adhesive, and reapply the new screen, making sure you run the flex cable back through the opening in the mid frame, and reassemble the phone. Once the screen cable is peeled back, we can see a 3D layer of graphite which runs underneath the battery, as well as the motherboard to help transfer heat. The flex cable for the volume keys and power button is located here, and it's held down with some adhesive, and there's also a rubber gasket holding it in place, so if you need to replace that, you just pull out the rubber gasket, gently peel off that flex cable, and lift up and pull out the metal bracket holding it down. The flex cable for the proximity sensor is located on the top corner, and the earpiece speaker is located on top, which is also held down with some adhesive. For the repairability score on this phone, I give it a 4.5 out of 10. Now it's time to put the phone back together. Once everything's back in place, apply new adhesive and reapply the back plate. Flip over the phone, power it on, and you're done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.